In a pass-happy league, it is important to have a dog on the outside who can go get the ball and change a game. A top-tier wide receiver makes the job much easier for any quarterback. It also opens up the field for the run game as well as creates space for the other receivers and tight ends to operate. Due to the fact the best wideouts in the league demand double coverage on almost every snap. When building an NFL team, finding a true number one option at receiver is a very important piece. And as we have seen so far in 2024, the price to lock this piece in is not cheap. So today, we will figure out whether the pros outweigh the cons of paying an elite receiver. The NFL salary cap for the 2024 season is set to $255.4 million, an increase of $30.6 million from last year, a record number for the league. With this growth, a select few teams have decided to use this extra cash to maintain and add to their wide receiver rooms this offseason. Actually, that was a little modest. In fact, the market for pass catchers around the league has actually exploded, with Justin Jefferson now being the highest paid non-quarterback in league history, which has led to many crowning receivers as the most valuable position outside of the signal callers. On paper, there is no doubt to do this. When you break down the numbers, seeing Jefferson's contract come in at $140 million for 4 years, A.J. Brown, $96 million for 3 years, Amon-Ra Brown, $120 million for 4 years, Tyreek Hill, $120 million for 3 years, and the list goes on. Making the wideouts the only position group in the NFL to have multiple players earning an average of $30 million or more per year. There's only one player in the NFL outside of the quarterbacks who averages that, and he is a defensive lineman, Nick Bosa, who averages $34 million per year. When the NFL team pays that ticket for a playmaker at receiver, here's what they are getting: excitement. Players of this caliber possess a lightning bolt type trait, and at any time, that lightning can strike and it sends shockwaves across the field, throughout the stadiums, and the city. A big-time receiver can be the spark to change a game at any moment. One blown coverage or even just a favorable matchup and the opposing team can get ready to hear the cannons go off. It doesn't take much. Players on that level are often so skilled and physically gifted, they make the game plan easy for their quarterback and offensive coordinator. Space. As stated earlier, an elite receiver is going to demand extra attention at all times. Defensive coordinators lose sleep any week they are going up against a wideout who seems like a magnet. Turning 10 to 15 targets a game into 150, 200 yards can make any defensive guru look like a novice. So during the week of practice, the opposing defense will stress every day on how to contain the threat. And what that usually does is open up holes for the other pieces around the star. The power of attention is an underrated superstar trait. Marketability. The product on the field is always most important, but let's not forget the National Football League is also a business. And with any successful business, there needs to be a face. More times than not, the quarterback is the true face of the team, as he is the leader. But if we are talking true personality and flair, 9 out of 10 times, the wideouts will win this debate. Some could say the DBs might have one up on the wide receivers in this category. But let's be clear, they are wrong. Defensive backs have swag, but the receivers have a bigger bag as well as a bigger spotlight. In an offensive league, scoring touchdowns and creating big plays throughout the game with the ball puts you on a pedestal. All of these concepts are far from new. And looking back through history, we can see which legends have received the superstar treatment throughout the last 30 to 40 years post-career, and the majority of them who have climbed the highest are former pass catchers. Creating big plays and scoring touchdowns leave a lasting mark. Production. And the last but most important asset you get from a superstar wide receiver is consistent production. Let's use the current highest paid wide receiver of all time for this example, Justin Jefferson. Since entering the league in 2020, it has been very clear that Jefferson has been elite and has played at the very top of the league. He has finished first or second in major receiving categories such as yards in the season, yards per game, yards per catch, and receptions in the season every year so far in his career. Putting up numbers that are better than another former Minnesota Viking, Randy Moss, who is arguably the greatest receiver ever not named Jerry Rice, beating him in every category except touchdowns, a record which I don't think will ever be touched. Justin Jefferson is the pinnacle of what any team could imagine as production at the wide receiver position. Even last year, which was a down season for Jefferson as he dealt with injuries, playing in 10 games and managing just 68 receptions, we saw his productivity still jump off the charts with 1,074 yards, bringing his average to 107 yards per game, which was the second best throughout the NFL in 2023. The Vikings clearly did what anyone else would do when holding such a weapon. They gave him an extension, locking him down for the next 4 seasons with a record-breaking $140 million contract, a deal that averages $35 million per year. And here's where the biggest question comes for NFL teams. After looking at all the pros of having a superstar wide receiver and what it does for your team and city, is it necessary for your team to pay top dollar for a wideout to win? History has shown that it is not. Since 2008, there's only been 4 Super Bowl winning teams that included a wide receiver being paid in the top 10 at their position. Cooper Kupp with the Rams in 2021, Mike Evans with the Bucs in 2020, Alshon Jeffrey in 2017 with the Eagles, Demaryius Thomas in 2015 with the Broncos. Which makes complete sense, as football is the greatest team sport ever invented. The pieces around a superstar are just as important as the star themselves. And being a star player on a team that is completely dependent on you willing them to victory every week is both tiring and unfulfilling. A path that sends most ringless greats on a search late in their career for opportunities to capture a title. Looking back at the last 8 years of Super Bowl winners, by pulling up the top 3 receivers from every team during each championship season, including tight ends in this list as well, each team except for the Rams in 2021 had a fairly balanced statistical hierarchy. To win the big games, if it all comes down to one person, a team will fall short. So in closing, wide receiver has always been a premium position in football, especially in the NFL. And in today's world, the number attached to being the best is through the roof. But the issue attached is that generally, when a wide receiver gets paid, the pieces around him need to be upgraded as well. This is what teams are lacking and forgetting. Having a superstar is pointless without putting the rest of the puzzle together. He is there to open doors for those around him while also making plays that others cannot. Football is like life, and life is about balance. There has to be a healthy balance on a football team. No matter how hot a team may be, it rarely ends well when everything is depending on one person. The cost of an elite receiver may be the chance to win a title if the GM forgets he still has to manage and build around his star. Think about it. Thank you.